Hello everyone, welcome back to Educate Lee. Today we're going to be talking about GPS, so let's get started. Today's objectives. First, we're just going to clarify what GPS is, then just discuss how GPS can track your location, then just briefly talk about the history of GPS, and finally mention some common applications of GPS in daily life. So first, what is GPS, also known as Global Positioning System? So it's just an American version of a Global Navigation Satellite System, or GNSS. What GNSS is, it's basically just a way where you can track location based on like radio waves sent from satellites that are orbiting Earth from the outside. So basically, while the actual preciseness of GPS depends on several factors, it can pinpoint your location down to a few meters on average. In some cases, it can actually pinpoint it down to less than a meter, but usually the margin of error is close to like a few meters. But yeah, so how does GPS work? How does it track your location? This is a little complicated, but just have to know that the US right now has 31 satellites that send radio signals to Earth. These radio signals, they travel at a constant speed, and as a result you can kind of think of it as a sphere, like the way they travel, because they travel in all directions and like at a constant rate. They also send information on time, because these satellites have like exact atomic clocks that are down to like exact time to like such a small scale, because that's really important when you're talking about precise location. You'll see why, but it sends the time at which they were sent, basically. No matter where you are on Earth, I just talked about the 31 satellites. At least 4 of those satellites will be able to reach a GPS receiver using those radio waves and radio signals. And basically, these receivers, once they receive a radio wave or like they detect one, they can calculate the time it took for the signal to travel from the satellite, because they either have their own atomic clocks that are set at the same time, or they can kind of use it, some like complex ways with like other radio waves that are coming through. And using like the amount of time it took for these signals to like travel, they can compute the total distance they are from each satellite that they're receiving signals from. So they receive information on how far away they are from the 4 satellites, sometimes more, that they're taking information from. So why is that important? So once you know how far away you are from each satellite, you can draw these spheres. I've talked about how they travel, these radio waves travel in spheres. You can draw spheres around each satellite that just about with like the right amount of distance being the radius. The radius of a sphere is like how far away the edge of the sphere is all around from the center, because it's just like a 3-dimensional way of pointing out like how far away everything is from the center. This is a good illustration to model this. You can imagine that this is satellite 1 right here. If you're in the center, where the satellite is, the satellite's at the center, and you know the exact distance you are from the center of the satellite, you can make a sphere around the satellite. Obviously, this is a 2-dimensional rendering of it. In real life, it would be 3D. And you're going to be on somewhere on the outside of this circle. In real life, again, it's a 3-dimensional sphere, because that these are all of the points in space that are exactly that distance away from the satellite. And once you do that with all 4 of the satellites you're receiving signals from, it's going to intersect at one location. And that one location, it's your location, or like where the GPS receiver is. So this is a closer, like larger look at that process. So again, the satellites are going to be at the middle of each sphere. It's the center, and the radius is just how far away your GPS receiver is from that satellite, because again, all of the points on that sphere, on like the edge, are just all the points in space that are that far away. And with each intersection, that's like all of the places where you could be based on how those spheres interact, and the distances of from the center. And of course, once you get to 4, there's only going to be one place where they intersect. So yeah. When was GPS invented? What's the history of the GPS? So it was first developed for military purposes in the 1970s by the United States. It kind of toyed around with the country. They kind of toyed around with other navigational systems using satellites, or they at least thought about them for decades prior. But this is the first main system that they produced. First, again, it was just for the military, but there was a plane crash in 1983 that involved an American plane accidentally going over Soviet territory. And as a result, the Reagan administration, Reagan was the president in 1983, they made it available to the world's public so something like that didn't happen again outside of the military. But for the first like 17 years of this like public availability, GPS, like their most precise signals were preserved for the military. This was changed in 2000 under the Clinton administration, and it was fully operational by the mid 1990s. That's when like all the satellites were like finally launched. They had 24 satellites by 1993, which I think was the optimal number to like have those 4 satellites visible from every point on Earth. It also then started becoming more available in like cars. Then eventually, when mobile phones started becoming more popular in mobile phones. So, what are some common applications for GPS? So first, you just have transportation. You know, if this is a car GPS system, if you're navigating for like directions using your car, or just looking at a map while you're driving that uses GPS. Cars also often have an SOS system that's specifically meant so like if you get into like an accident or you're like stranded and you don't have your phone with you, you can just press the SOS button. It gives like authorities your GPS location. It's also used in like airplanes and like ships. This is an airplane control panel. It can be used to track all sorts of things like animals, criminals, people, and like important goods. If you have a pet, you might have a collar like on like your dog or a cat that has a GPS tracker in it. You can have like a wallet or like some sort of good that like holds like valuable things that's like smart and like has like its own GPS tracker. Like criminals wear like ankle bracelets that track their location. It's also important to have a GPS signal when you're traveling alone, especially in like the wilderness or like a dangerous area. So if you tell your family you're going to come back in a few days, but you never come back, they can alert authorities and then give them your GPS location so they can at least track you down, recover you, or just make you sure you're okay, save you. It's also important for money transfers and finances because when you're transferring money to someone, I talked about how GPS, these like radio waves, they like kind of send information on time also. So it's important to like get that timing down to like a very exact amount so you're not like accidentally sending money to the wrong person or like there's no like fraud. It like protects against that. Also, you have social media and games. This is a big one in today's world, I think, very applicable. If you have like social media like Instagram or Facebook, you can tag your location when you go somewhere. Like post that, people will see where you are. On a Snapchat, there's a feature called SnapMap where you can like locate all of your friends and like different stories people have posted to the public. There's also some games like Pokemon Go. I'm sure if you were a part of that trend, you've played it. It's basically just you walked around, caught Pokemon that appeared at certain places on like a map. It's like literally based on a map, so yeah. But that does it for today. So thanks for watching this video. If you have any other questions or just curiosities about geography, feel free to watch other videos on our site. We have videos not just on geography but other subjects, so feel free to just browse our site, look at that. But until then, yeah, see ya. Thanks for watching.